Good evening, everyone. Trust half of what he said.
And that's still amazing amount of stuff.
Then trust 10% of what he said. It's really great to be here with you guys one more time. Thank you so very much for having me. Yeah, that's really great. I mean, I enjoy coming. So as long as you keep the door open, I'm showing up. I'm really thrilled to be here, and I appreciate you guys keep going on this wonderful activity of yours that you've had for a while, where we get to share and speak with about Spiritism with Spiritist folks for so long. I always tell people that it's really a gift to be with you guys because when I started studying Spiritism, I expected it would give me some sort of insight and perspective into the world in ways that I had not yet known before. And that did come true, but what I did not expect, and it was really a fantastic gift, and as I get older, I appreciate that more and more, is that everywhere we go, we find people trying to be a little bit better every day. And that is super refreshing. And to be able to call you friends and to have the sense of familiarity, it's really inspiring to me. So that is the second gift that Spiritism has given me that I did not expect. It is a wonderful gift. So thank you for all that you do. And for all that you will do, because just showing up here on a Thursday night sometimes is a victory in itself. Right? The world is tough out there with lots of different things, and that's sort of what we hope to talk with you about for the next 4.5 hours.
Great.
No? No? Okay, all right, I tried. I do carry it away every once in a while, but I'm going to try to be brief because I think that if we have time, we maybe can swap some questions and answers and just interact, because I love that, and I think Spiritism is all about that. But the world is tough, right? And things are a little bit hard right now, and I hope that what we are going to try to do today is to take a slightly different approach, perhaps a bit unconventional, but to try to quantify love in our lives. We all get sad every once in a while. We all get down, and we know that love is the answer. We talked about that, but that seems very abstract for some of us. Oh yeah, love, we need love, but what does it look like? And then the question that comes to my mind is, but hold on, how about the love we already have in our lives and we are not aware of it? So is there love for us out there that we just don't know about? And if there is, then what does that mean? And how that would change the way we are. So we're going to try to do that, to do a little bit of inventory of that. We're not going to go too far. It might be slightly, like I said, unorthodox, but I think that it won't shock you. And of course, we are going to also do some calculations today. That's why I call it the mathematics of love. But don't worry, I've brought my calculator. You don't have to do any math today. Plus, I'm not very good at it, so the math will be simple. You don't have to worry about that, right? But I think the point is there's so much hatred out there in the world today. There's so much intolerance. We struggle to make sense of each other. We struggle to accept each other. You know, if we think differently than our neighbors, then we stop talking to them. If we like different things, we shun people that disagree with us. If we vote differently, we don't like each other. So there's all kinds of things going on that we really need to address because we're still human beings, and there's so much violence out there. We have fear of everything. Fear that we are going to go into war, fear that we are going to be robbed, fear that the economy is going to tank. There's so much fear out there too. Fear that we're not going to be enough, that we're not going to accomplish our things. We have wars, not just war, but wars going on in the world today. And we're not treating each other right. There's still quite a bit of discrimination out there depending on how we look, where we come from, who we love. So there's lots of challenges in the world today. I don't need to remind you of that. I think you live that in many different ways. Of course, the world is not just that, but by large, if you look at news today, you see that there's lots of things going on. It's hard to find the bright spot. And so my point is, if we are talking about love and how to get love in our lives and how to see the love that's out there, if we just keep looking for a world that is sick, we won't find these answers. So we have to look elsewhere. We have to go beyond the physical to understand what's going on, because we don't want to take advice from a world that's sick. We want to change it. We want to put that in our lives. And the best way to do it that I know is to go back into Spiritism. And Spiritism, with its wonderful spiritual perspective, it makes us see things differently. I tell people that Spiritism is kind of like a new lens. I share with people, I have recently come to use glasses, to wear glasses, about a year and a half. And when I put my glasses on after I first got them, and I was like, whoa, I guess I needed glasses, right? Because when I didn't have glasses, I'm like, that's normal. But when I put glasses on, I saw things were different than what they really were. And in many different ways, Spiritism is that. Because once we start thinking spiritually, when we step into the reality that we are immortal spirits that are just here temporarily, we begin to look at life in a whole different way. And when we look at a life in a different way, we can change the life we have. So shifting our perspective from thinking about things as immortal spirits versus people who are currently on earth trying to make things happen may be able to shed some light into how can we find this love that sometimes we feel there may be missing when we are a little bit downtrodden, when we feel a little neglected, a little abandoned, feel like nobody loves us or we are alone. So how can we do that? Well, Spiritism can be an answer for that. How so? Well, I think there's two big gifts, two big teachings that Spiritism brings us. One of them, and this is pretty obvious to you guys if you've been here for a very long time, it is the death of death. There is no death. So death is dead. We know that for a fact that after we shed this body, we are going to continue to exist, just in a different way. We know that because we have the opportunity in Spiritist practice, maybe not here today, but to interact with the spirits of those who no longer have a physical body, and they tell us of that. They tell us that who they are continues to be after we pass, which means that who you are and who I am will continue to be too. You are indestructible, spiritually speaking. You are bulletproof, spiritually speaking. Don't try to be bulletproof out there. Which means you go on. And that is really important because we also need to take this knowledge that seems obvious to us and apply to those next to us. So if I am going to continue to exist, it means that you are going to continue to exist. And that means that the people that you love will also continue to exist. Simple. And that means that the love that you build in this lifetime will carry on. It is possible that many of us have had loved ones that have passed away already in this lifetime. And sometimes we feel a sense of loss and so forth. But we don't stop loving them, do we? So why is it that sometimes we forget that they don't stop loving us either? We just think about us because we're just here incarnate. But if we think spiritually, they have passed on. They are immaterial, so to speak, without a body. They're discarnate, but they're still loving us. So there is this invisible love coming from them that we ignore. Whether it was your parents, your loved one, friends, whoever it is that you loved and passed on, they are still loving you. And that love is therefore the taking. And it could possibly be said that they're able to love you better from the other side because they might be unencumbered by the physical and truly be able to focus on what matters, which is our relationships with each other. So that's a really big gift, but we need to apply that. So when we talk about immortality of the soul, we're talking about not only our survival, but that of those around us. And so why is it that we forget that if we don't stop loving those who die, they don't stop loving us either? The second piece of this is we also learn about reincarnation. We also know that reincarnation makes sense from a divine justice perspective, because God is just, otherwise God is not God. So we have many chances to grow and learn through many lifetimes. We also have been exposed to that probably, right, in our studies. It's a big piece of Spiritism in general, and that makes sense. But what we sometimes forget is that we don't connect these two things, which means if I am immortal, then those who I also love are also immortal. Then that love that we were talking about has to be multiplied because we have lived many lives, which means that we have had many parents, many sisters, many brothers, many colleagues, many friends who continue to love us even though we don't remember them. Just because we don't remember them, it doesn't mean that they don't remember us. We know that during this incarnation, we must forget a little bit of our past so that we can better attend to the things that we are learning about and struggling with to grow, right? Because otherwise, if we remembered everything, chances are we would be stuck. Because if we look back into our past, chances are we were not as nice people as we are today. So it's good to forget the past. Right? If we are always evolving, the more we look back on our past, the less nice, rosy things we are going to see about ourselves. Because we keep growing, right? So that means, a very simple conclusion, I hope, that if we survive and our loved ones survive the physical body, I mean the death here, and continue to love us, and we have multiple lifetimes, there are multiple people who continue to love us. The question becomes, how many? Right? Otherwise it's abstract. So let's try to quantify this a little bit. This is when the calculation comes in. We're going to do some back-of-the-napkin calculations. You can check my math. It's very simple. And you can do your own math later, right? But here's how we start. The people you love. Let's go through the basic cell of our lives, right? So let's think about this. How many people do you love in this life? Start with your family, maybe. I know that families are not perfect. There's always at least one outlier in the family, right? Somebody who doesn't get along with others. And if you can't identify one in our family, it's probably you, right? There's always somebody who's a little bit off. But let's just start. Like, how many people love you in your life? Just do some mental calculations, some internal auditing on your own brain. Like, I can do this with you. I can say, I've had a father and a mother who loved me. My father's passed, my mother's still here. I have a sister. I have at least my wife and 2 kids. Right? That's 7. Not to count friends along the way who I really love and who are really there for me. But sometimes people may say, I don't have that many, or that seems like a lot. I get it. So maybe what we simplify is, let's just pretend that we have 4 people per lifetime. A mother, a father, a partner and a kid, or whoever way you want to decide. One father, your mother didn't love you, or vice versa, according to you. You decide. Let's just settle on 4. I think we have a lot more than 4 people who truly care about us. And I'm not talking about romantic love here. I'm talking about deep disinterest love, where people you just care for you, are there for you, not romantic love or passionate love. That's not the only manifestation of love, we should say, right? We're talking about love who cares about other people and is truly there for them. Pretend it's 4, because it makes it easier. Calculations are easier, right? So if that's the case, let's do some calculations. Because if we know the number of people that we love or love us in each lifetime, if we can figure it out how many lifetimes we've had, we will have the number of people who love us. Following me? Right? So the first assumption here is that we're going to have 4 people in our life. So we're going to be conservatives. We're going to budget this thing in a conservative way. We're not going to spend love, right? We're going to pile it up, right? Now the question becomes how many lives we have had. That is very hard to ascertain. We don't know exactly. So we're going to have to be creative here, right? But let's assume that we incarnate once every 100 years. Why? Because it's a round number, people. I don't know how to do great math. I'm going to do simple math, right? Well, life expectancy nowadays is about 80 years old. So that means that you would come in for 80, take a break for 20, come back for 80, take a break for... Sounds reasonable, right? Sounds reasonable. And also, if you think about this, life expectancy is 80 now, but 200 years ago, it was 40, right? So it's possible that 200 years ago, we incarnated more than once every 100 years. You're with me? But we're going to keep things simple. So we're going to say one incarnation every 100 years. So the tough piece is, for how many, for how long have I been incarnating here? That is the really tough one. So the way that I went about this is this. Well, we need physical bodies to incarnate. Our physical body, our current species, Homo sapiens, has been around for 300,000 years. Which means we have had this equipment to incarnate and feel love and everything else, pretty much the way we look today, with minor upgrades along the year, right? For 300,000 years. So I think you get where I'm going. We have a formula. 4 people per life times the number of lives we have, which is 300,000 years divided by 100, which is one incarnation every 100 years. That leads us to 12,000. And then you go, 12,000 people, Dan? That's the number of people that love me? That's too much. I cannot fathom that. That is way too much. That doesn't sound right. Okay. We could still be being conservative. So let's adjust our numbers here a little bit. So instead of 300,000 years, instead of the Homo sapiens piece, let's do the Homo sapiens sapiens, which is the version 2.1 of Homo sapiens, right? Like, the version that gets the upgrade. It's still Homo sapiens, but it's the current one, the fully decked out one that we have. That one has been around for 150,000 years. So if we slash that in 2, it gives us 6,000 people. Then that's still a lot. I don't know. 6,000 seems like a lot. I'm like, all right. And I think you're right, because I think there's some other factors that we learn about here in Spiritism that's also very important for us to bring into the incarnatory pattern thing, right? And that is what I call the friend and family discount. What is the friend and family discount? Simple. We know that we don't always reincarnate with new people. That we incarnate with groups of people, because we have to work things out and we can help each other, or sometimes we have relationship things that we have to kind of come back in the same family and the same life. And if we're taking the family with the 4 people we love, right? So it's very, 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 very likely that we are not getting new people every time. So if we have a 50% repeat rate, that is, if we come with the same group of people once every 2 lives, that 6,000 number drops to what? 3,000. But then you may say, Dan, I don't know. My family is kind of difficult. Feels like I need to work with them a lot, right? Or maybe you just think 3,000 is too a big number. Well, if we think that we might come with them 3 out of 4 lives, a 75% rate would give us 1,500. But if you really want to be super conservative, you can say, let's take a 90% repeat rate, meaning that you come with the same people 9 times out of 10, which I don't think is realistic. I really don't. But we're going to use very conservative numbers to get the lowest number we can possibly imagine so that we feel safe about our calculations. If that is the case, then it's 600 people. 600 people who truly care about you. That's a lot of people. But then you raise your hand and say, Dan, I have been studying the Spirit's book, and in our conversations, we have also come to learn that not everybody incarnates at the same time. So there might be some people now who are incarnate and are not thinking of me. They have also forgotten about me because they are here in the physical body. That's what I call the incarnate discount. So let's put an incarnate discount in there and say 50% of those people are currently incarnate and 50% of those people are in the spirit world. That brings that number down from 600 to 300. So there are at least 300 people who are loving and cheering and supporting you right now in the spirit world. If you think about this, it is 3 rooms like this one filled up with people. who care about you, who you may be unaware of at any point in time. Let that sink in for a sec. That's a conservative approach. Sure, we can argue about who loves you more. Right? Oh no, but out of 300, only a third of that really loves me like. No, I think they really care about you. It's still a really big number. It is a really big number. The question is, what is it that we do with that? Because oftentimes in this world, when we face our challenges, we forget this. We forget that we are mortal spirits. We forget that we have been reincarnating for a while, and there is an incredible amount of love for us. What would you do differently? How would you behave? What would you attempt if you knew that you had 300 people who don't judge you and who support you? Would that change the way you go about things? Those dark moments that we all go through, would they feel different? Because let's be honest, we all go through difficult moments. We all do. And perhaps the big lie that we all live is we all think that everybody else got figured out. But even when our life is comfortable, we still struggle with something. We still worry about our children, we worry about ourselves, whether we are enough, whether we are doing enough, whether we're lonely, whether you put your weather in there. So, if there are 300 souls who care deeply about you, what does that mean? And I'll tell you more. This number has got to be conservative. You know why? Because if a friend calls you today and say, hey, I have a friend of mine who is in trouble. I need to go help him. Can you come help me? Help him? You would. Because it's your friend and he's got a friend. So a friend of your friend will probably become your friend soon. So how about the friend from all these people? How about that network of love that we're tapping into? It's such a large number that it seems unrealistic sometimes. Right? At least for me. There's so much love for us that it's hard for us to fathom. It's hard for us to take it in. And that maybe is one of the challenges we face. Why is it that we're not letting that love in? What is preventing us from stopping, opening up our channels, and taking the love in? The world is so busy with all those things and keeps us busy, and we're unable to register that. So in one of the Psalms, there's one of the Psalms that is beautiful and really stuck with me and says, "Be still and know that I am God." We have to be still, not of physical body, but of mind and heart. Sometimes we have to make the time to reflect. Otherwise, life will happen and the busyness of things will take over, and we won't have a chance to truly reflect on who we are and the love we have. The love we have for us and the love we have to give. So do you make time to reflect? I know I don't do it as much as I should. I sometimes laughingly joke saying that I think that I spend more time every day brushing my teeth, 2 minutes a day, hopefully, than thinking about myself as an immortal spirit who is temporarily here, undergoing some growing and some learning, because that's what I'm meant to do. That's why times like this, when we get together in a Spiritist group or any other place that makes us think about ourselves, a higher power, our role on earth, is very important to us. Because it allows us to zoom out and have a sense of purpose and perspective. And that's what I like about Spiritism. It is a perspective it gives us to zoom out. But we have to exercise it, because reincarnation is something we know about, Immortality of the soul is something we know about, but have we really been thinking about the implications of those two connected and the amount of love that we have? Just look around. Do you all know each other? Do that polite glance, awkward glance, just look to the side, right? Because here's the beautiful thing. If you don't know each other, say hello afterwards. Because here is the even better part of this. This is a backwards number. And by that I mean, this is the number of people that you have met in the past. It is also true that the more you incarnate, the more that you grow, the more times you come, and the more friends you make, this number will go up. How many more lifetimes will you have? I don't know. A good number, right? How many more friends will you make? A very large number. Tell you what else. The more we improve this planet and ourselves, the more friends we're going to make. So that silly number of 4 that we picked, it's going to grow exponentially too. So it's going to come to a point where we're truly going to know and truly care for a really large number. I'm talking about millions of souls. How would it be to walk out there in the world knowing that every single person you walk to, talk with, or come into cares for you and loves you? Mind blown. What would we accomplish individually and as a collective when we get to that point? That is our collective future. That is what's going to happen in this planet. That is the certainty that will come to us. It will take a little bit of time. I won't lie to you. I don't know how much time it will. But that's the ultimate scenario in which we are going to walk into. That ought to uplift our hearts. Brings a little bit of skip to our step and a little bit of hope for the world, because the world is evolving, but it takes us to do it. That's kind of amazing. I wonder if that is the universal family that sometimes we read about in our Spiritist books, and the references Jesus makes to brothers and sisters. But we gotta think about this. So, at least 300 people care deeply about you right now. That is a back-of-the-napkin calculation we've done based on thinking how many people love you per lifetime, calculating how many lifetimes you've had since Homo sapiens sapiens. If you're not satisfied, you can do your own calculation. Then we were very conservative and also took 90% of the number out because we figured maybe we come with new people. No, maybe we do the old people. And then we took another half of that number because not everybody's here with us at the same time. We go back and forth. And the number is still 300. Even if the number were 50, it was still pretty big. It would be a number that you can rely on when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling lost, when you're feeling things are not working out for you, because we all have those moments. So stop. Come up with your own number and keep that in your back pocket. Make your list of the people that you love and know that love you in this lifetime. And maybe you'll be surprised of how much love is there for you. And mind you, I have not even yet pulled in the big guns. I'm not talking Jesus. I'm not talking mentors. I'm not talking high spirits that we know support us, not only individually, but as a group. Again, a friend of my friend becomes my friend. Quite a bit. So maybe your next activity, when you are at home, enjoying the wonderful Florida sun, Maybe you can also bask on the love that is coming to you. Sit on a chair, open up your heart, make a little prayer, which is a wonderful way. Salute all the people who love you, that you are aware of and that you're not aware of. And just let the love come in. Just let's sit for a second. Take that in. Let that touch the innermost fibers of your being. Let that reality that you're an immortal spirit created by an all-loving God to succeed over many lifetimes. Feel empowered and go about your day doing wonderful things, because you are here as agents of change. And how wonderful it is to share this world with you. So I hope that more and more you can do your own calculations to reach your own number, to never forget that from the beginning you were created out of love, and never in your spiritual existence did you not have love close to you. And that the future would only be one of more love. And for those of us who may like a little bit of numbers and might want some concrete pieces, maybe you can put a number on it for now. And if you have ideas how to improve that equation, let me know. But that's it. That's all I have to share you and tell you that I would love for you to consider me in your team. So your team just went +1, right? Thanks for listening. Does it make sense to you guys? I'm going to stop right there. See, this day I didn't get too excited. I didn't blow my time that badly. Miracles exist. Right? If
You said 4 hours.
Out of love, we changed it.
You're going to open up for questions now, so now we'll go for it.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
How do you spend your time when you say you sit back and you bask yourself in the knowledge that you have all of these entities for prior incarnates, that now all of a sudden, oh, it's not just my local group, I have multiple generations. How do you yourself, or what do you recommend, beyond just the knowledge that we have this large number of spirits that do love us?
What else could you do to feel that love, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I think that the reflection piece and awareness is the first step, right? You have to be aware of it. And I think that we don't do enough of that. I think the second piece is there is learning that happens cognitively, intellectually, and there's love that's learning that happens experientially. So the awareness, the sitting down and reflecting upon it, helps you bring the emotions to the experience. And after that, go be part of some groups who care about you and who you care about that are doing great things. And learning here is wonderful. Coming here is wonderful. Maybe there's an activity here where you guys go together somewhere to do something for the collective, right? Because Spiritism, it's such a lens that transforms the way you see things, that all of a sudden it's all like upside down, like how the world thinks, right? Because Spiritism is funny. We study, we spend our time, we volunteer, we get tired, we have all these questions, we go to these places, we donate our money because we have to sustain this. We work a lot, people complain about what we're doing, and we love it. That's sort of like almost a definition of insanity, right? Like if you tell the world, hey, we come here, nobody here gets paid, we spend our own money so that we can learn with each other and help others. The world out there will say, you're crazy. Because the world out there is saying, you should be spending your money in activities that make you, you should be spending your time and effort in activities that make you money so that you can get things, so you can have things, so you can be important. So many different ways, the way we think physically is different than the way we think spiritually. So the more we can get ourselves to the spiritual place, right, thinking, the best. Does that happen every day? For me, certainly not. baby steps. But repetition is a thing. Reincarnation is repetition. The Thursdays you come here is a thing, right? You might come here, you might say, oh, I like that speaker. Oh, I don't like that speaker. But even when you don't like that speaker or they make no sense, you are still thinking about something elevated, and you are considering whether that makes sense for you or not. So you are doing yourself a favor or working on your awareness, your spiritual awareness. It's my take on it, right? Make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We're talking about love, and some of us don't even know how to feel the love or think that they don't love themselves, so that way they cannot share love because of that. So how to grasp this information if I'm at this point?
Mm-hmm. Love is tough, right? And I mean the love is tough is, it is tough for us sometimes to feel that love for a variety of reasons. A lot of the times we don't give ourselves the space to do it. And we can argue why, and there might be lots of psychological, reincarnatory, subconscious things. But I think that most of us love somebody else. So if it's hard for us to think about what it is like to receive love, just imagine the love that you have for somebody else. And then put yourself in that person's position, receiving your love. Because we know the love we give. We don't always know the love we get. At least I think in our level, we still struggle. Do they really love me? And maybe we want to spend some time thinking about love in itself too. Because our concept of love, it's kind of wonky. Right? Our concept of love sometimes is like passionate sexual love, attraction, physical love. But if there's one thing I've noticed over the time having a wonderful wife is that the love that we had is still there, but it has transformed itself. And now I would call it like, there is a companionship side to love that is amazing. Just knowing that she's there, and I can pick up the phone and talk to her and share with her earnestly without having to worry about what it is. It just gives me so much certainty that sometimes I forget. You know, I sometimes think about this because I have friends who are my age, or they either divorced or they never got married and they're looking for a partner. And I just imagine, whoa, how hard is that? To go out there and expose yourself to somebody else new. And then I realize that it's a privilege I have not to have to worry about this because I have this love that I take for granted. Sometimes, you know. So sometimes it takes some experiences to put ourselves outside of ourselves to be able to feel that love that we don't always feel. Right? Because it's hard to know the things you don't know. How do you know the things you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. But if you pay attention and reflect, you might find ways that work for you. Think about the people who you absolutely are sure loved you. Maybe it was a grandma. Maybe it was your mom. Maybe it's your current partner. Just take that love, run with it. Because when we are in a downward spiral we all get into, right, sometimes, it's hard for us to walk out of that. And we also have a physical thing going on too. Like this physical body of ours has some hormones that are important for us, for our preservation. So for fight or flight, when there's stress, we have all these kinds of hormones that are released in our bodies, and they are meant to help us survive challenges. What they do is they get glucose in our bodies so we can get energy, adrenaline kicks in, and now we're able to deal with stress and we really power through, and we don't even focus on anything else other than problem at hand. That's necessary when a tiger jumps out of the woods in front of you. Not Tiger Woods, but a tiger in the woods, right? If a tiger jumps out in front of you, all of a sudden, like, you're not thinking about, whoa, this is a beautiful forest. Look at that butterfly. There's a tiger in front of you. That's all you're going to see, and you're going to think about is the tiger, right? And you're going to run, you're going to fight, you're going to do whatever it is. And your body has that extra energy, and in case you get attacked, your body will even heal faster because you're not even going to feel it. But once that's done, you feel the shaking, you feel the adrenaline, you got the shock, right? But what happens if you continue to keep yourself in that adrenaline-driven scenario? You lose the ability to have peripheral vision, right? You just see the tiger all the time. And if we only watch the news, if we don't zoom out, we are just seeing the tiger every single day. And our body gets used to it. So it becomes harder for us to notice the love that is out there for us. It's hard for us to stop and look at the butterflies, at the grass, at the forest, metaphorically speaking. And if I'm getting really abstract here and making no sense, you let me know. But you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes we have to make the space to let the soul breathe like this, so that we can free ourselves from these things and let the other hormones kick in and detox from that stuff. So it is also possible, and this is really tough for us to sometimes give ourselves space for this. It is possible for a world to have wars, hatred, violence, and everything else, and we still feel happy inside of it. Two things can exist at the same time. It is possible for people to be having a really hard time and you still be happy. Will you be happy all the time? Probably not, but there will be pockets of happiness. When Jesus says happiness is not of this world, I think he meant happiness is when you think about things spiritually. But he did not say, sometimes what he does not say is more important than what he says. He did not say happiness cannot be in this world. He says happiness is not of this world, but that is, look elsewhere. And when we pray the Lord's Prayer, what is it that we ask? We ask, may your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. That is, let heaven come to earth. And who's doing the praying? Us. So who's going to do the work? Us, because we're asking for it, right? So it is kind of our job, mission, so to speak, to bring happiness into this earth. That's what the gospel, evangelion from the Greek, means, the good news. The good news is not something that should make you sad. I got good news for you. Your mom died. No, right? It doesn't work, right? So there is a happiness to knowing about these things, that we survive the physical body, that we are going to be immortal, that the people you love are never going to die. Maybe you can take a minute to reflect on that, right? Like, who's the person that you really like? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you like that person next to you, right? Just take a moment. Like, even if there is a health scare between the two of you, you'll never be separated. Isn't that awesome? It's incredible. I get goosebumps sometimes thinking about this. And the more we travel today, we know that distances are not as big as they used to be in this planet, right? And so, for those of us that are beginning to study the immortality of the soul and understand that they're still here, then maybe it's time for us to shift that. Can you feel the love that is in this room? If you take a moment, you will feel it. There are those without a physical body who are here with us, smiling, partaking with us in this experiment. We forget. And we study this damn thing every week, right? We study the spirits, we talk about this stuff, and we still forget. It's normal. But the awareness piece comes by repetition, so let's get ourselves into that awareness mode. Didn't I tell you that if you let me, I'll keep talking forever? Somebody, pull me out of stage, right? Anything else before I turn it over to you guys?
Come on, guys, no, never.
Do you really believe this number is conservative? Because I was like,
Yeah, I know.
It's still a little bit too much.
I know, right?
I was like, this is too much.
I know. So I'll be honest with you, like the first time I did these calculations, I kept cutting it down because I didn't believe in it.
I was following your method, but then it's like, this is too much.
It is. It feels like a lot, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think it's conservative,
Okay.
right? And then there's a second piece that we could do out of this, which is, well, let's talk about quantity versus quality, right? So, hey, when you bring JC into the picture, JC is my older brother, Jesus Christ, right? If I could feel close to JC with a love that I cannot even fathom in terms of quality. What would that mean in terms of how I feel about it? And if I think about all these wonderful people, such this enlightened soul called Joanna de Angelis, who is so close to us in many different ways, and has done so much for us and for my life, particularly, I'm like, wow, there's some amazing people. But then I go back to that faltering process. And then I hear in my soul an invitation in saying, why do we struggle accepting the love? What is it that blocks us from inheriting the love that was made for us? If we accept that we are going to constantly evolve through reincarnation to a point where we get to moral perfection, which we think is the case as we study, we are going to have an incredible, almost perfect amount of love in our hearts. That's going to happen. We can argue about how long it's going to take, right? Some people are taking the freeway. I'm taking the scenic route. It's going to take a little bit longer for me to get there, right? You might be on the carpool lane. You might be going fast. I'm not. I'll be honest with you, right? Still got things to work. But we will get there. And that concept seems so difficult for me to understand that one day I can be Christ-like. It was like, impossible. But yet it isn't. Because he said so. He said, you all will be gods. With a lower G, right? Like you all will get to a point that is so beyond what we can understand that will seem fantastic to us. Anyway, so yeah, I do believe that that number is conservative. And I also waver and say sometimes no, but then that's when I have to kind of let myself sit down for a little bit and ponder about it. And I still think if it's 30 people, still pretty good. You know? Anyways, I'll shut up now. And thank you so very much for being here and for taking the time today. And count me on your team.